Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and this is the Old Review Omnibus, Volume 13. Wow, I made a lot of stuff. And this is kind of a two-parter within this. This is the other batch of John Carpenter reviews that I put on the Rough Cuts that are new to this channel. They were originally on the Rough Cuts, now they're here on my YouTube channel. I basically, throughout a period of time, I will review everything by a certain director. I need to get back to my Buster Keaton series, frankly. The original director I did that with was John Carpenter, particularly because I was on this collab channel called The Rough Cuts, which ended, I stopped doing, but basically it was like a bigger deal for me, and I thought, oh, I'll do John Carpenter because I like him and I want to do more of his stuff, and I'll do all his films and people will be into that. And then when I left the channel, I brought that series over to my own channel, but these are kind of the leftover ones, basically. I kind of like doing this thing because I can bring them back here, and, you know, they can all be in one place, and it's kind of fun to see. To be honest, I was kind of down on doing this one. One of the reviews in here I didn't think would be as good, really. Never liked it, and I watched it and go, oh, it's not really that bad, but I would like to re-review Assault on Precinct 13, which was actually the one I'm talking about. That one I always hated it. I always would think, oh, I don't like that that's there, and then I watched it and I go, oh, you know, I mean, I could do a better job, but I just didn't. I don't think it's awful either, I guess. But anyway, so I'm going to do this in the order of filmography, basically. So we're going to start with Eyes of Laura Mars, which is not a film John Carpenter directed, but he did write, and I go into all the history of that. It's actually directed by Irvin Kershner, who directed Empire Strikes Back. It's a pretty cool movie, by the way. Well, it's not amazing, but anyway, I get to a whole thing, and also that it was a movie I borrowed from my friend for 2 years, and then ended up watching and reviewing, and then giving back to him. Then after that is going to be the aforementioned Assault on Precinct 13 review, which is not as bad as I thought it was. It's actually pretty cool. And then after that is going to be Starman, the only film John Carpenter ever directed to be nominated for an Oscar. That would be Best Actor for Jeff Bridges, which is kind of a weird one. And then finally is Ghosts of Mars, which is probably one of his worst, if not his worst movie. And I'm wearing the Goblin shirt in the beginning and the end, so there's a way to bookend it, even though I'm shooting things to bookend it, but you know what I mean. Anyway, yeah, Ghost of Mars is bad. I guess two things. One, I talk about Netflix Instant. That's basically just what Netflix used to be for you younger kids, or Instant Netflix. And the other thing is I mentioned follow me on VHX. Now you're like, what is that? Now they basically just sell movies, but originally it was this thing where you go to it and it was like this site, and it was sort of just like a big view screen, and you could just add URLs from YouTube and other video sites on there, and you could just hit play and just sort of like a Tumblr feed or a Twitter feed and just see these videos play. And if you like the beginning of it, you'd watch it. If not, you could skip it. And I really liked it. I'm still sad that's gone. If there's something like that now, someone please let me know, because I had so much fun on that, and I was really promoting it because I was like so into it. I sort of indirectly knew the people did it. I think I met them once maybe, but like I really loved it, and I got people into my stuff through that, actually. So it was a cool site, and that's why I mentioned it so much, because I loved it so much. These are all from the Rough Cuts. These are all actually online, but I'm guessing most of you don't watch the Rough Cuts channel, so they're coming here where they will now have their new home and you can watch them. So this is the rest of my John Carpenter reviews, just in time, as you could probably guess, for the new Halloween and so forth like that. But anyway, here we can delve into me reheating my leftovers and presenting them to you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of my John Carpenter series, finally back on my channel. Hey, what's up? It's Tuesday. I'm Jim here for The Rough Cuts, and today I'll be talking about the film Eyes of Laura Mars. This is kind of continuing my series of reviews of reviewing every film that John Carpenter ever directed, but however, he didn't really direct this film. Irvin Kershner did, who of course later directed Empire Strikes Back, Never Say Never Again, and RoboCop 2. This was actually John Carpenter's first big Hollywood production that ever became anything. It came out in 1978. I mean, he had done stuff before, but this is his first Hollywood production, really, with his name on it. He came up with the story, and then he wrote the screenplay with David Zalig Goodman, who helped write Straw Dogs and Logan's Run. A photographer, the titular character, Laura Mars, played by Faye Dunaway, who suddenly, out of nowhere, in the middle of anything, she will not see what you normally see with your eyes. She sees through the eyes of a killer, and it's usually killing one of her friends. And she's having these kind of telepathic episodes, and then, you know, and they always turn out to be true because she's seeing through the eyes of the killer as he is killing
all of her friends, and it'll happen in the middle of a photo shoot, it'll happen when she's by herself, it happened when she crossed the street. I'm surprised she didn't get hit. And she's a fashion photographer who used a lot of violence, striking images. You know, this takes place in New York of the late 70s, and she's the hip photographer who has cool fashion shows that everyone wants to go to because these images are unsettling and hip and cool and violent and sexy, and everybody's into them. But a lot of people feel maybe they're too controversial. And then it turns out some of the murders that have happened way before, she's actually unconsciously recreating them, and it's kind of creeping her out that, like, why is she doing that? Is she like telepathically linked to some of these killings? But the police, with the help of a detective played by Tommy Lee Jones, is there to help track down the killer and figure out whose eyes she is seeing through. This is very much in the tradition of a giallo. I've reviewed another giallo for the Rough Cuts before, Blood and Black Lace, and that had a lot to do with fashion and photography, and this does as well. You can definitely tell a Bava influence, especially at the beginning during this big gallery opening. It also reminded me of Howard Hawks, which is, you know, of course, John Carpenter is very influenced by Howard Hawks. How the pan really established like kind of all the characters in this whole photography world, and the models and her agent and all these people. The whole idea of seeing telepathically through someone else's eyes who's a killer is kind of an interesting idea. It got a little silly after a while to me. And then when they introduced this love story with her and Tommy Lee Jones, it didn't feel like it was properly developed. It kind of felt like we're in love, and then they were just kind of in love, which was a little weird. I didn't really like that part. I liked kind of the idea that she was this controversial, violent, you know, photographer who liked to do these striking images, and that she was paying for her art and stuff. That was cool, and I wish they kind of kept on that theme rather than, it seemed like all the tension that was building when her and Tommy Lee Jones start going out. I really wasn't as into the movie anymore. It really took me out of it because it just felt like such a hard left turn out of nowhere. I do like Faye Dunaway. This is right after she won an Oscar for Network. Apparently she was going out with a photographer at the time. Apparently this was originally supposed to star Barbara Streisand, however she felt that the role was a little too controversial. So she does do the song, which is the love theme from Eyes of Laura Mars, which I love the term love theme from. Or it's love theme from Eyes of Laura Mars, parentheses, Prisoner, and it was a big hit. It's the only Barbara Streisand song that appears in a film that she did not star in or appear in at all. She's not in it because she didn't want to be in it, but they did develop it for her. Like, they bought the script so she could star in it, but she changed her mind, and then they cast Faye Dunaway instead. I like Faye Dunaway in this. I think she's a better kind of horror choice. I kind of buy her more as a photographer. I generally like this movie. I like the giallo elements, but I think that as much as I like that in it, I think maybe it was a bit too long and had a little too many plot points that didn't really need to be there. Apparently, Irving Kershner played a rough cut of this to George Lucas, and George Lucas decided that he should direct Empire Strikes Back. I totally don't get that from this movie. I would not see Eyes of Laura Mars and be like, wow, that guy should direct Empire Strikes Back. But however, I'm glad that decision was made. I think he knew Irving Kershner before anyway. It does have kind of a moody tone to it. Not as moody as Empire Strikes Back, but it's got kind of a moody overtone to it. If you have seen Eyes of Laura Mars and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe to the Rough Cuts. If you haven't already, subscribe to my main channel, which is in the info box below. Follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, and potentially VHX, and follow Earl Barrett Holloway's Tumblr, who does the picture at the beginning and the end of this video and has a cool comic as well that is out called squidcomic.com. And that's it, and I will see you next week. I saw this for not only because of the John Carpenter connection, but also because my friend let me borrow this DVD like 2 years ago, and I saw it and I go, wow, I should return that. But I feel like I've had it so long, I should watch it first. Hey, what's up? It's Tuesday. I'm Jim here for the Rough Cuts, and today I'll be reviewing the film Assault on Precinct 13. Now, this is continuing my series of reviews where I review every movie that John Carpenter ever directed. One of the things I really like about John Carpenter is he really likes old movies, he really likes westerns, he likes kind of John Wayne movies, he loves Howard Hawks. Like, John Carpenter and Howard Hawks is very similar to Brian De Palma and Alfred Hitchcock, and this film is so Hawksian. This is a remake of Rio Bravo, or like a combination of Rio Bravo and Night of the Living Dead. There's this gang, Street Thunder, and they're assaulted. 6 of their members are killed by police officers the night before. And then there's a precinct that's closing down. It's actually called Precinct 9, District 13, but that doesn't sound as good on the poster. And that was the distributor's side of that one. So they go on revenge, and they go and they kill this little girl, the Street Thunder. The father of the little girl who sees this goes on revenge and kills one of them, and then runs into this police station. Now this police station is closing down. They're moving to another precinct. They're getting rid of it. And so there's just this new guy who's just come. It's his first night, played by Austin Stoker. He comes to just look over the place as they're kind of moving out. And then when the guy comes in, whose daughter, who's been killed, and he killed one of the Street Thunder, they're trying to get it at him. They never really do, but then Street Thunder attacks them. They cut the phone lines, they cut the power, and it's really like just them in this lonely police precinct, like fighting for their lives. They're transferring inmates from this big prison, and they have this death row inmate, Napoleon Wilson, who's notorious. They don't really get into exactly what happened, but I think like 3 guys died. They all band together to save this precinct from this gang who put a cholo on the precinct. It's so aggressive, but sometimes it's so patient, because the whole film is them in this precinct. It's just a couple of characters. I know them so well. They're so rich, these characters. I mean, you really get to know them. There's a lot of stuff I just don't know about these characters. Like, I really don't understand Street Thunder. They really come across like, I've heard them often be compared to like how Indians are in Westerns, and how they're just kind of evil. You know, and these guys are just kind of, I mean, I understand someone died, and they did, you know, and a lot of their gang members died, and they took a blood oath and all that, but they look very evil, and they're very non-denominational, because you have a white guy in the Street Thunder, you have a Hispanic guy, and you have a black guy, and they're all hanging out together. It just seems like kind of this overarching evil that you don't understand. I mean, there's certain horror elements to this movie that I really like just the unexplained scary element of horror. The way the gang is, you don't really understand them, you don't get them. I don't think I ever hear any of them talk, really. I mean, maybe a few times, but you don't really get to know the Street Thunder. They're just kind of evil. I really like the score in this, and this really shows how good he is with using his own music, because he's such a good film composer. He's using synthesizers, but he was really ahead of his time. It sounds like he was just kind of fucking around, but it's like the right kind of fucking around where it like comes off as brilliant. The way it builds, and the drum machine, and it does like have this ominous tone to it, you know. As much as this is a action picture, it's so influenced by horror, and it's like, it makes so much sense watching this. Like, this is why they wanted to have this guy do Halloween. I think this and Halloween are very like simple, kind of basic B-movie ideas. Carpenter just loved, he was like a movie brat. Like, he just loved film, and he loved Howard Hawks, and he loved mixing these influences together. This film is very influential right now. Attack the Block is very influenced by Assault on Precinct 13. The Raid Redemption is very influenced by this movie, because the director said so in an interview I read. And you can tell, it's like, and it's kind of pre the action movie of the 80s that we're all kind of influenced by now. I think it's like before that, before Die Hard and stuff. This is really a precursor to that. It was pretty violent for the time. They show a little girl while she's eating her ice cream cone getting shot. Like, there's blood on her, everything. I mean, that was pretty gruesome at the time. It's just a movie I like. I love this movie. I really like the original Assault on Precinct 13. I have never seen the remake, and I really don't have any interest, really. And this is kind of one of those movies where it's like, wow, John Carpenter is amazing, and it kind of put me on this path where I'm like reviewing all of them, and I just like watching it today was just like a lot of fun. I highly recommend Assault on Precinct 13, and especially if you're a Carpenter fan, like, this is absolutely one of his best movies. I mean, it's just like, it's such a good film. I even read a thing on the Wikipedia about how Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg like just love this movie, you know. Anyway, so if you have seen Assault on Precinct 13, you'd like to talk about it, then comment in the comments below, and subscribe to the Rough Cuts if you haven't already. Subscribe to my main channel in the info box below. Follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, and potentially VHX, and follow Earl Bear Holloway's Tumblr. He did the picture at the beginning and the end of this video, and yeah, that's it. I'll do another Carpenter movie soon. Hey, what's up? It's Tuesday. I'm Jim here for the Rough Cuts, and today I will be talking about Starman. This is continuing my quest to review every movie that John Carpenter has ever directed, and so we fall on Starman. This film was made in 1984, the Voyager 2 space probe, which NASA launched into outer space with a gold record, and basically like a greeting, come check us out sometime. It has hello in every different language. It also has basic words from the English language, like about 100, so you can understand what to say and whatnot. Because NASA launched it, not Russia. This ball of light alien guy sees the probe and watches, their presentation and gets this amazing gold record that they have in there, and then he travels to Earth. His ship is shot down, and then he flies away from his ship, and he finds Karen Allen, who is mourning the death of her husband, who died like, I think 6 months before this. He sees all the pictures, I guess, and then transforms, probably the best special effects sequence of the whole film. He starts off as a little baby, and then slowly morphs and grows into Jeff Bridges, who looks like her ex-husband, but isn't. And then he has her drive him to Arizona, where he's supposed to meet his alien spaceship to go home. And then he has these silver ball things, which he can use to attack people and explode things, heal people, and all sorts of stuff. They're really cool. There's kind of two stories behind this. The script of this film was at Columbia around the same time as E.T., and Columbia was like, well, we can't have two, alien visitation movies going on at the studio at the same time, so they let E.T. go, and E.T. went to Universal. This one took longer to get off the ground. The other kind of interesting thing about this is John Carpenter released the movie The Thing a couple weeks before E.T., or maybe a couple weeks after? I don't remember. But they were around the same time, and basically E.T. destroyed The Thing, because who wanted to see evil, scary aliens when you can see E.T.? He was going to do the film Firestarter, which he didn't get to do, which probably would have, I assume, be a lot better. He had to do Christine, just to that was the only thing being offered to him. Then he came back. He was kind of like, he had a bit of clout after that, not a ton or anything. And he got offered Starman because he could work well with special effects and emotion. This is more of John Carpenter as a work-for-hire director. This isn't a John Carpenter movie where he really developed it or anything, but I can still feel a Hawksian influence and kind of that Carpenter charm. The thing that really bogs it down is its kind of twist on the E.T. thing is that it's about adults. It's supposed to be more an adult kind of schmaltzy, what people thought of as a good Hollywood movie at the time. This is very studio controlled. It's not, some people have said there's not very much Carpenter at all, and I think that's really true. Jeff Bridges and Karen Allen almost feel like replacements. Like Karen Allen, I don't know, feels like Adrienne Barbeau should be in this part, but I kind of like Karen Allen more than Adrienne Barbeau. I don't think Adrienne Barbeau would have been that good, and I think Karen Allen's a lot hotter than Adrienne Barbeau. It's just those big eyes, I don't know. I'm kind of surprised this wasn't like Kurt Russell and Adrienne Barbeau, because that seems to be more typical Carpenter casting, but this was a studio-run film. This is the only film John Carpenter's ever directed to be nominated for an Oscar, and it was for Best Leading Actor for Jeff Bridges. He didn't win. The next time he was nominated, he did win for Crazy Heart. Jeff Bridges is actually kind of annoying. I didn't really like his performance. He talks in this robot voice, I'm Jeff Bridges, kind of stuff, and talking bizarrely and all that. I really did not like his performance. I found it annoying. Eventually I can, I guess, relate to the character and follow the character, but I did not like what I was seeing at all. The sex scene in this is just, I don't really know what exactly they're doing, but it just looks like they're kissing each other really oddly. I just didn't really understand. It looked like some of the worst sex ever, or that they weren't actually having sex, which I'm pretty sure they weren't, by the way it was filmed. It was pretty the most unerotic sex scene I've ever seen. It was a little gross. It made me want to go ew, gross, stop kissing each other like that. Ugh. He did this because he knew it would put him in a better place. But it's sad because the early Carpenter, from Assault on Precinct 13 to The Thing, those are all kind of organically made by Carpenter, and they have this strong directorial voice on it. And it's sad because it's as 80s Hollywood got more corporate and more into blockbuster and merchandising, having these huge hits, I think it hurt him as a director. They kind of suppressed these directors who were really good. Starman is kind of bland. As good as it is, it's the best Air Supply record that could ever be, you know? I mean, it's still Air Supply. You might kind of like it. It might have been their edgier, weirder album, but it's still Air Supply. It's an alright studio picture from 1984, and that's really kind of all this movie is. I wish it was something more. I mean, it is kind of wedged in there between Christine and Big Trouble in Little China, but in a way, I think it helped him be able to make Big Trouble in Little China. So for that alone, I guess it's alright. So if you have seen Starman and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments. And subscribe to the Rough Cuts if you haven't already. Subscribe to my main channel, which is in the info box below. Follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, and potentially VHX. And support Earl Barrett Holloway's Kickstarter for his new comic he is doing. He did the picture at the beginning and the end of the video. And check out his Kickstarter because so he can raise money to make a comic book. And that's it. See you next week. Hey, what's up? It's Tuesday. I'm Jim here for the Rough Cuts, and today's film is John Carpenter's Ghosts of Mars. This is continuing my series of Rough Cut reviews where I review every film that John Carpenter ever directed. Ghosts of Mars takes place in the future where we have colonized Mars. A police officer played by Natasha Henstridge from Species fame, also with a very fresh-faced Jason Statham. I guess this is the beginning of his career. And they go to get this criminal and transfer him to another jail. When they arrive in town, they see no one is there, and they eventually find out that what has happened is someone unleashed a Pandora's box of ghosts, kind of by accident. These spirits came and possessed the people, the miners who are living there, because it was a mining town, and turned them into these savages who would attack them. It reminds me a bit of Prince of Darkness because it uses elements of other Carpenter films like Assault on Precinct 13 and kind of the thing. The beginning, it tries to pretend it kind of has a good structure of like a 40s film noir or something, or a 40s crime drama. But this film kind of falls completely on its face. It looks like bad sci-fi syndicated TV at the time. This came out only actually a few weeks before 9/11 on August 24th, 2001, and it actually opened at number 9 at the box office, which is pretty terrible. I mean, it bombed pretty bad. At the time, I thought this might do okay, but I didn't even see it at the time. I just saw it now. It's on Netflix Instant right now, and it just kind of, it's a goofy idea, and it feels like Carpenter, like when even a film like Christine, which it's about a goofy car that becomes evil, and that's a silly premise, but he directs the hell out of it, and he makes these cool pans, and he has a mystery about the car and all that. And in this, like, the villains are kind of just these weird, tattooed, crazy people. He doesn't really do much to build them up. None of the flash is there. None of the fun is there. It's just cheesy. Some of the line reads are really bad. The plot's stupid. There's way too many characters, and then when they're killed off, they're kind of forgotten about. When you get to the point of John Carpenter's career, the late 2000s, and he's making stuff like Ghosts of Mars, it's really changed, and almost full circle, maybe, I guess, is from being a really impressive B-movie director who can direct a B-movie like an A-movie to someone who's just directing a B-movie. I mean, this is just a B-movie, you know? It's nothing special. B-movies were becoming blockbusters. He kind of rode that wave. And it's like, even though, you know, Spielberg had moved on, I don't think he really knew where to go with making a John Carpenter kind of movie. And sure, I mean, there's a lot of Carpenter elements in it, and at the beginning I was like, well, maybe this is like so dumb it's good, but it reminded me of kind of Escape from LA. I don't think it's as bad as Escape from LA. This is not like his worst movie, but it's definitely probably one of the worst. I mean, you know, and Natasha Henstridge, I mean, I think her career was kind of over. It's kind of bizarre, I don't know, that they really wanted her to be the star in this. There are certain Western elements I think that are kind of cool that they brought into this. I'd like to see in more movies sometimes, but I just, like, none of it was really good. It was just a bad B movie. I mean, I really, like, wouldn't be surprised if this was, you know, if someone told me this was a sci-fi original movie on a Saturday night, you know, it's just like that bad. It's like straight to video kind of crap. I was kind of sad that the score was so bad just because John Carpenter's scores are always so good, and it's not that I don't like metal or anything. I actually do. It's just that it just didn't fit with the movie that they were making. I think it kind of announced things too loudly almost, like someone would be behind and be like, "Doo-doo," and then the action sequence would go into this metal riff and stuff. It just didn't fit for me, you know? It's like, I have seen movies where, you can get metal music to work, but I just, you know, the way they used it in the score, it came off as a little cheesy and it just felt almost dated. It just didn't work, and obviously didn't work at the time. And he didn't make another movie until last year's The Ward. Even directors you like, there's a period you're a little embarrassed of, and I'm a little embarrassed of Ghosts of Mars. So if you have seen Ghosts of Mars and you would like to talk about it for some reason, then comment below in the comments. Subscribe to the Rough Cuts if you haven't already. Subscribe to my main channel in the info box below. Follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, and potentially VHX. And follow Earl Bear at Holloway's Tumblr, who does the picture at the beginning and the end of this video. And that's it. Thank you.
Alright, so that was the Old Review Omnibus Volume 3, John Carpenter Part 2, I guess. We went quite an arc there, from like pre-Carpenter, one of his masterpieces, one that I'm kind of like, eh, and then like one of his worst. I think this one was organized better than last time. Those were reviews from the Rough Cuts. You can check out that channel if you want. Anything on mine is pretty much going to be here or is already here. You know, it's kind of nice to revisit that series, see my old apartment where I used to shoot reviews. I've actually realized recently I've lived in this apartment longer than that apartment, and this is a better apartment, frankly, in case you're wondering. But yeah, it's kind of cool to revisit that, revisit the past of 2012. I think those are all from 2012. I don't remember that time. But anyway, yeah, so those were kind of my old reviews. Back at it. If you want to talk about any of the reviews on here or the Old Review Omnibus, there will be more of them. I have a couple more, and I think I'm going to do a deep dive through some hard drives, see if I find anything else, and then we'll just put this series to bed, I think in the next 5-6 months or something. But I'm going to be a little more frequent with these. I hope you enjoy them. I'm not sure if you really want to see my old stuff as frequently as I'm presenting it to you, but it's going to happen anyway. So if you would like to talk about John Carpenter or any of these reviews from Assault on Precinct 13, Eyes of Laura Mars, Starman, or Ghosts of Mars. Oh, 2 Marsland. I just noticed that. Wow. Okay, if you would like to talk about any of those things, then comment in the comments below and subscribe if you would like to. But to be clear, Laura Mars has nothing to do with Mars, or does it? I actually haven't seen that in a while. Maybe it does. Does it?